All right, trying to get the glare off the screen there. Sorry about that. All right, so thanks everybody for joining me this morning. We'll go ahead and get started here. If you got your questions, go ahead and post them. It's either going to be below the video if you're on a mobile device, or if you're on like a regular laptop, computer type of thing. It's typically going to be to the right of the video there. If you're new to office hours, basically the way that it works is you ask your questions, I answer them. If you came on here like more than an hour ago and typed a question on here, then go ahead and just copy and paste your question back in there. I start with questions that were asked up to an hour before. So Robert H posted his question at 7:53. I'm gonna say that counts. It's close to an hour before, so I'm gonna start with Robert H's question. So Nagesh R, if you're in here 6:12 this morning, I don't know if that's 6:12 this morning or last night. Michael F, yesterday afternoon or early in the morning. Some of these folks, if you're you posted a question after the office hours yesterday and well before the office hours today, more than an hour before today, just go ahead and copy and paste your question and put it in there. The reason why I do that is I just want to try to answer questions for people who I think that are here and get to see them live. It would suck to, kind of come on here, ask your question, and then it wouldn't get answered until the very end, and may not get answered at all if I started with all the other questions. So I always try to give preferential treatment to the people that are here actually watching them live and not watching them later on. So let's go ahead and watch here or answer a question here for Robert H. So Robert H says, do you recommend finishing the 20-minute distance fix 3-week segment before starting the full swing course? Not necessarily. It really just depends on how much time you have to practice. So if you are in a situation where you can only practice a few hours a week, then I would say just stick with the 20-minute distance fix. But if you're in the situation where you have more than 3 or 4 hours, 5, you can practice 8 hours, then I would be looking at, okay, let's see what else I can do to improve my game. So, and I'm not counting playing as practicing. That doesn't count. I'm talking going out to the range, working on what you're doing, swinging the club, and maybe you're working on your putting, you're working on whatever it might be. I'm not counting playing is practice, even though it kind of is practice if you're just kind of out there, practicing how you play. But that's not what I'm considering counting as the time for practice. So it really just depends. So if you just don't have a ton of time, it's 2-3 hours a week to practice, then just stick in the 20-minute distance fix. That's going to fill up that time. If you have more time than that, then you can add in something like the Top Speed Golf system, or if putting is really an issue, maybe the Top Speed Golf putting system, or if short game is an issue, right? We have the chipping mastery course. We have we have many other courses. So you just have to look at what's most important to you. But I would say 20-minute distance fix is where you're going to want to be if you don't have a ton of time to practice. All right. So Vin M says, hi Q, what are common causes of not getting enough backspin on irons? For example, with my 7-iron, I get decent distance, 170 yards, but backspin tends to be in the 3,000s or 4,000s, which seems low. This is based on data from a SkyTrack and a GC Quad. Yeah, I would say that's fairly low. 3,000, 4,000s typically have a rule of thumb is, a 7-iron, you want to look at around 7,000 RPMs of spin, something like that. And it really depends on your club head speed a little bit too. But if you're hitting your 7-iron 170 yards carry, you got to have a decent amount of club head speed to do that. So I would say definitely those are kind of on the low side. I would expect your spin to be a good spin number for hitting it 170 yards. Having enough speed to hit that far would be, somewhere in the neighborhood of, 6,000 to 7,000, or maybe a little bit more than a 7,000 in there. So let's talk about what causes spin. So one thing I would definitely check, and one thing to keep in mind as well, is that I don't know what kind of balls you're hitting when you're getting these kind of spin numbers. But range balls can be different. So range balls are typically kind of junk balls. So understand that they may give you close to distance numbers, but they may not kind of spin the same way as like a Pro V would or something like that. So the golf ball definitely can make a difference in the spin numbers. Now, is probably not going to make a 3,000, 4,000 RPM kind of difference. But it can make, I think it can make a little bit more of a difference than what you might think. So one other thing to consider is your club face. It needs to be clean. So part of what gives you spin is the friction that you're getting between your face and the golf ball. So if you have a lot of dirt on your face, the grooves are all filled up. You know, it's caked with dirt and the grooves are all filled up, because that's what the grooves are for. The grooves are meant to displace debris and moisture from the actual surface that's contacting the golf ball, so that it can grab the golf ball, essentially. So it's not necessarily the grooves are digging into the ball. It's just that it's keeping that surface area clean, or hopefully pretty clean, so that you can get that friction on the golf ball. That surface area can actually, the friction can grab the golf ball, essentially. So if your face is not clean, that's gonna cause some issues. Another thing to consider is if you're hitting in very wet, and if you're getting a lot of debris on the club face when you're hitting it, that's also going to lower the spin. Now, if you're hitting it solid, you know, you're probably not chunking it and getting a lot of debris on the face, but it's possible that you could be coming in, sliding the club on the turf. I don't know if you're hitting off of a mat or if you're hitting off a turf, but if you're coming in, you're getting a lot of moisture on the face as you're about to hit it. That can cause the ball to kind of slip, essentially, on the face, because there's only so much moisture that these grooves can displace to keep that face clean, and or keep it, you know, to where it can get on the golf ball pretty good, and it may not give you the spin that you're looking for. So that's something to consider as well. But as far as what's going on at contact, so basically what drives spin is something that's called spin loft. It's also speed a little bit, but spin loft is kind of the main thing. So when I'm talking about spin loft, I'm talking about the angle between your angle of attack, which is the direction your club head is moving into the golf ball, the up and down movement, and then the dynamic loft, which is the loft that you're presenting to the golf ball. So just to explain that a little bit, this is a 50-degree wedge. That means that when I hold this shaft straight up and down, this wedge has 50, I'm seeing 50 degrees there. Now, when I come into contact, I want to have some forward shaft lean. And if I get this shaft leaning forward, it's going to de-loft that. So your average tour player is de-lofting the face at contact about 30% of the static loft. So if this is a 50-degree wedge, they're de-lofting this somewhere in the neighborhood of, you know, it's going to be about 42 degrees is about what their dynamic loft is, or sorry, 32 degrees is going to be about what their dynamic loft is going to be. Actually, it's not going to be quite that much. It'll be more like 35 degrees would be pretty close to what the dynamic loft is, 36 degrees, somewhere in like that for your average tour player for a 50-degree wedge. So it's going to be somewhere in that area. So let's say that I'm hitting down on the ball 5 degrees, okay, with my wedge, which would be fairly typical for a wedge shot. Might be a little bit more than that for your average tour player. And then their dynamic loft is 35 degrees. So if you take the angle between those two, then you're going to get about 40 degrees. Now there's some other, it can be a little bit complicated because that is assuming that your face and path are perfectly square and things like that. But just to keep it simple, we're just going to say it's about 40 degrees. So that 40 degrees of spin loft will dictate a lot of what's going on with the spin. That spin wedge is what that's often called. So if I want to make that spin wedge higher or bigger, then that will add spin. So you may be coming in and de-lofting the face too much, right? So you may be doing way too much forward shaft lean. Probably not, but it's possible that may be what's going on. You may be coming in and flipping a little bit. So not hitting down on the golf ball, right? And that could be causing that to happen. You could be hitting up on the golf ball a little bit. So what's likely happening, it's hard to say without seeing your swing, but what I would guess is happening is that you're coming in and you're probably flipping a little bit. So you're probably coming in, flipping a little bit, coming in really, really shallow, and hitting it really low on the face. And when you hit it low on the face, that de-lofts the face even more. And then you're probably just not getting the spin from that. It's hard to say without seeing your swing, but those are the things to consider. But I would first I would imagine that if you went in there and you clean the face, use real normal golf balls, and ensure that you were making ball first contact and not sliding the club on the turf, on wet turf or on a wet mat or anything like that, then you would probably get numbers closer to what you're used to. But things to consider are to hit down on the ball a little bit more. Maybe you're coming in way too shallow. Maybe you're hitting up on the golf ball a little bit. And also, you may be having too much forward shafting, which probably isn't likely, but you may be coming in and leaning the shaft too far forward, making it difficult to get that kind of spin out. So it's not likely that that's the case, but some things to look at and to consider that they give you a spin. All right. So then he said, also, can you see when the ball striking masterclass will open again? I think they're going to open some here very soon. So be on the lookout on your email. I'm not in on those meetings all the time. So that's kind of out of my jurisdiction for stuff that we do on the website. But I think that they're opening up some here in the next week or so. So just be on the lookout in your email for an opportunity to sign up for that. So Dave P says, Project Harrington talks about pulling the lawnmower cord with your right shoulder on the backswing and pull up on the cord on the downswing with the lead shoulder on the downswing. It looks like cut off. It looks like that would help stay in spine tilt through contact. What do you think? Yeah, I could definitely see. So when you're thinking about pulling the cord, right? So if I'm pulling the cord, I'm not likely going to go like this, right? When I'm pulling on a cord, my natural feeling is probably to coil up and pull this way. So when I do that, see what's happening with my shoulders? I'm pulling like straight up and away from it, right? That's going to allow me to have the most kind of power and brace in. So I think that is a good feeling. You can see I'm staying in my posture. If I'm visualizing pulling on a lawnmower cord, I'm visualizing that, and I'm staying in my posture pretty well when I do that. And then if I think about that in the downswing, right? So now I'm here and I'm thinking the same thing. Okay, I have a lawnmower right here. I'm thinking the same thing. I'm staying in my posture and I'm pulling up on that and I'm coiling. If I were to pull I'm thinking my downswing here, right? I want to work that lead shoulder up and rotate open. If I'm pulling on a lawnmower cord, I'm probably not going to go like this, right? I'm probably going to go like that, right? I'm going to coil up and I'm going to pull up on it because that's the direction away from it directly. I'm not going to go like that. I mean, I don't see a lot of people do that. Now, if that's your inclination to do that, that's probably not a good feeling. If you're coiling up, you're turning your hips and then getting your shoulder low, getting your hands low, and then pulling up on it and getting that shoulder to work up from coiling and rotating up, then I would say it is a good feeling. So everything's relative, right? So all feelings are relative. I think that's I think for me, thinking about that, for me, I could see, okay, yeah, I could see how that's beneficial because when I think about pulling on a cord, what am I doing? I'm coiling up and I'm pulling and rotating back. I'm not thinking, I've seen, maybe you've seen people pull cords, or maybe you pull a cord where you're going like this, or, it's not really, what you want to be doing in a golf swing. So everything's relative. You got to find the right feeling that works for you. If you find something that works good for you and gets you to move in the right positions, then fantastic. It sounds like that works really well for Project, and it's great that he shared that with everybody, but it's not a 100% universal thing that I think is going to help everyone, because some people are going to think, okay, I'm pulling a lawnmower cord, I'm going to go like this, and that's not really what's going on. I would feel like I was going like this if I was pulling a lawnmower cord, where some people might feel a little bit different. So it's all relative. If it works for you, it gets you to coil up really good and turn really good and stay in your posture and not slide around, then I would say, yes, that's a fantastic feeling to have. But if it doesn't, then you got to find the feeling that gets you to do what you want your body to do. All right, so Thomas J says, hi Q, I've been working on the move, getting my hands higher to shallow the club, and then trying to turn my wrist to square the club. I think I'm doing this now, but how do I know for sure? I try video, but can't see the wrist club face in enough detail. I appreciate your thoughts. How do you know when you are really squaring? That's a good question. So what I would use is something like a tennis racket, right? So if I have a tennis racket, I can clearly see, even if I don't, I mean, you probably don't have a real high quality camera, I would guess, or a pretty low quality camera if you're not able to see what's going on there. Because I mean, I get videos sent to me all the time from all kinds of different phones, right, for swing reviews, and I usually don't have any issues. So it might be a lighting issue where you're seeing that. So if you get outside, I find that people who send me videos that are indoors, like if I were to take a swing in here with this lighting, it wouldn't look very good. It would be hard for me to see things that are going on. But if you get outside, the lighting is so much better. It's going to be easier to see. So I would try to get outside, get in the sunlight, and see if you can get some better looking video. That can help out quite a bit. I would say that's probably likely the option. I'm guessing you're videoing indoors and trying to look at that, or maybe it's dark or something like that and you can't see the detail. But one thing you can do is you can use a tennis racket here because you can clearly see where the face is pointing and things like that. So if I line up basically this tennis racket where I put my thumb right on top and basically the back of my hand is also the club face, then I can clearly see, right, what's going on there. So I would get working with the tennis racket, take a look at that. And then, you know, if you don't have a tennis racket, you can try and get it with the club. I would just try to get a little better lighting. You know, get outside, natural light, so you can actually see what's going on there a lot better. So you can see for sure, because that's what you want to see. You want to see basically this lead wrist kind of doing that kind of action in the downswing, starting to square the face early. So you can see that pretty easily if you use a tennis racket. All right, so Thomas C says, what causes a solid miss wide right? Not a slice, but a straight shot off to the right. So if you're hitting it solid, that would be what's called a block or just a push. And basically what happens when you're hitting a block or a push is that your path is too much into out, right? And then your face, the direction your club face is pointing. So just to clarify, when I'm talking about your path, I'm talking about the direction the club head is moving when it strikes the golf ball. So that's when someone's talking about in to out or out to in, they're talking about their club path. So my club is coming down, it's working from in to out, into out, into out, and then it's moving out to in as it's working around my body, right? When it's contacting the golf ball, if you're blocking that ball out to the right, it's solid, meaning you're hitting it in the center of the face. Your face, there's not a lot of curvature to it. So basically that means that your face angle, the direction the club face is pointing, is lined up pretty much with the direction your club head is moving through contact, right? So that'd be considered a solid strike. But the problem is that it's right of the target. So we need to get our club path more on line or more squared up with the target. So right now, what the reality is that you're swinging out here too much into out. So this is the fault. The fault is that you're probably swinging too much into out. The path is too much into out, and you're getting that push to the right. Here's the feel that I want you to have. I want you to feel like you're swinging over the top, like your path is actually working out to in. That's what I want you to feel like. And the reality of what will likely happen is that you'll get this club working more on plane and more square to the target at contact. Now, if you actually if you still push the ball out to the right when you have that feeling, I just want you to exaggerate it even more. Really, really feel like you are coming over the top to get that ball to straighten out. Now, if you actually do pull it a little bit, that's great. That means that you've made change in what you're trying to do. All you have to do now is ease off of that a little bit. Ease off that. You're probably just overdoing it a little bit. Now I'm just going to ease off a little bit to get it to where I want to be. So the best way to really fix any issue is to adjust your feel to get the desired result that you want. And that's typically exaggerating the opposite. So if you're hitting a big old push block out to the right, then I would try to hit a big old pull to the left to compensate for that. And I would keep doing that until you actually start pulling the ball, and then you can just ease off of that feeling. Again, it's just adjusting your feeling to get the desired result. So it's essentially trying to calibrate yourself, getting you back to where you need to be. All right, so Steve H says, I have been through the spine and power turn sections and have developed a nice backswing with good hip and shoulder turn. However, I get to the wrist cock shown on your videos. Any suggestions that will make getting lag any difficult? So any suggestions as this will make getting lag any difficult? So first of all, I would just start working through that top speed lag course. I mean, that's the next thing in the progression. There's some great drills in the beginning of that top speed lag course where you go through a lag progression to get you to have that proper feeling in the grip. You're probably just putting a death grip on the club. That'd be my guess. So in the beginning of that top speed lag course, you're going to be doing some drills where you're kind of just going like this and feeling the momentum of the club go back and forth. So you just kind of got to get used to this feeling. You're probably used to kind of having complete control of the club and putting a death grip on this club and not really letting the club do any work and really just trying to control and force this club to do your will, right? So what we need to do is kind of trust that we're moving our body in the right way and trust the momentum of the club and get this proper feeling of that. It's not going to be easy to do. It's going to take some repetition. If you're really used to getting this club started and casting from the very, very beginning, it's going to take some time and some repetition to get used to it. But you got to force yourself essentially to do it. You got to get out of your comfort zone, get out of your bubble a little bit and trust what's going on. You're probably going to hit some terrible shots, and it's just because your body doesn't know how to hit the golf ball and let the club kind of do the work. But you're going to associate, you're going to adapt, and you're going to start hitting the ball better once you get more and more used to it. So just work your way through that top speed lag course. Go do that progression drill where you're kind of feeling, you're getting used to this momentum of the club, feeling that weight of the club do the work for you, and you're going to be well on your way to doing what you want to do with it. So go to that top speed lag course. All you got to do is click the house icon at the top of the screen. That'll take you to the home page. If you scroll down the home page, you'll see a list of all the courses on the website. Start working through that top speed lag course. Basically, we go over exactly what you're talking about in that's level 1 of the course. So get the repetitions in, get to where you're starting to get more comfortable with it, and you'll get better and better. All right, so Dax C says, at address, should my hips be level or should there be a tilt because of right hand and shoulder lower than the left? There can be a little bit more, so basically you can be level or you can have just a slight tilt, but you don't want to be like this and you don't want to be like this. So level or a very, very slight tilt is fine, but mostly pretty level is where you want to be. Because when you're getting that spine angle, that's mostly from your upper spine. So I'm not taking my whole body and going like that, right? I'm getting set up here, and then that spine tilt's mostly coming from my upper spine, my thoracic spine. So I'm getting a little bit of right bend here at contact, and that's coming from my my hand going lower, my trail hand going lower on the grip. That's where that's mostly coming from. But there may be a little bit of a slight tilt there. You just don't want to get too much, because if you get too much tilt, right, then you're going to kind of get locked up and it's going to be hard to rotate. So you want to be fairly level or a very, very slight right tilt, right hip a little bit lower. Really, if you just set up naturally, this is what most people are going to do. But if your natural inclination is to go like this, then you may need to feel like, okay, I need to feel like I'm a little bit more level with my hips. If your natural inclination is to kind of go like this, then you may need to feel that you're a little bit more level with the hips. So, but for the most part, level hips, very, very slight right hip tilt is fine, but you don't want to be excessive with it because it can lock you up with your hips. So Vin M says balls, Snell, MTB, X. Yeah. So, I mean, you should, so it doesn't sound like it's the balls that are the issue. So So yeah, I also what I would do is when you're doing this the spin rate, I'd make sure that a part of the ball, like the logo on the ball or the line on the ball, is facing the cameras, because the way that those things calculate the spin is that they'll find like a spot on the golf ball, and then they'll lock onto that, and then it takes so many frames per second, and then it basically counts or calculates how that ball is rotating in those from frame to frame to frame to frame. So if it doesn't have anything to lock onto, if it's just seeing a white kind of blob, it may be difficult for it to lock onto something. So if you set up that golf ball, I know this is especially too with the SkyTrack. I don't know that's so much of an issue with the GC Quad, but I know with the SkyTrack, I know that in the directions it asks you to have that line kind of facing, have something facing those cameras. So make sure that when you set that up, that you have it kind of have that line kind of facing that, so that it can lock onto something more easily. So give that a try. I know that lighting and sun can make a difference as well. So if you're out and it's really super sunny, I know that the SkyTrack doesn't really work well when it's really, really sunny. And these photometric ones like the GC Quad and the SkyTrack, they're really great for indoors. But outdoors, if the sunlight is kind of funny, it can have some issues. Typically, the radar-based stuff is a little bit better for outside, but inside, the photometric stuff is better. But if it's really sunny, then it could be, because I know that we have a GC Quad here at Top Speed Golf that we use. Sometimes, typically we use a flight scope in the videos, but we also have a GC Quad that we use. And sometimes when the sun is coming in and reflecting in a certain way, it won't pick up shots, or it'll give us kind of funny numbers sometimes. So that could be something that's going on as well. So try those things and see what's going on there. But yeah, it sounds like something funny is going on a little bit, because I would imagine that it's either moisture, because I'd imagine that your angle of attack is not, so you're probably not hitting up on it if you're hitting your 7-iron that far, and you're probably not getting too much forward shaft lean. So I think there's probably a reasonable explanation as to the face is dirty, or there's moisture getting on the face. It's reducing the amount of friction on the face, so the face is slipping, the ball's slipping on there, or the sun's messing with it, or it's just not locking onto the golf ball and getting the proper spin on there. All right. So Frank C says, I find that when I make a big turn, I end up pulling the shot left. So hopefully you're getting a big turn, or hopefully you're getting more speed with your bigger turn, because that's really the biggest point. The main point to getting a bigger turn is giving you more speed. That's the whole reason. That's basically the whole reason why we do it. We want to create more space and time to accelerate this club, right? The more space and time we have to accelerate the club, the more club head speed that we can generate at contact. So that's really the main point. So you have to find, sometimes there's a point of diminishing returns, right? If I'm going with my shoulder turn and I'm trying to continue to turn my shoulders and I'm like this, I'm probably not going to get a lot of speed from as much speed as maybe I'm looking for if I'm in this kind of position, right? So there's a point of diminishing returns there. So hopefully you have a club head speed device where you can kind of see what's going on there. But hey, if you're getting the extra speed from it and you're pulling it to the left, now we've created another problem. So the problem before was that you probably didn't have enough speed, right? So now you've gained speed. Now you're just pulling the ball to the left. So now, in order to have the speed and not pull the ball to the left, we have to get you to where you're coming more from the inside, right? So if you're making that bigger turn, what may be happening is that you're coming over the top. Now, one thing I would look at on video is to make sure that when you're getting that bigger turn, you're not standing up. Because a lot of people, when they get a bigger turn, what they'll do is this will feel like a bigger turn going like this, right? And when I stand up and I get my shoulders level, what am I going to want to do in the downswing? I'm going to want to go like that. I'm going to want to come over the top. When I come over the top, I'm going to tend to hit some pulls when that happens, because a pull is caused by a ball, the face being close to the target and my path also being close to the target, right? And my club, my face and my path are basically in the same direction. So what I want to do is get my path working more into out, more this way. So what I would try to do is get your big turn, but also swing into out as much as you can, right? But I would also look on video and make sure that your big turn is actually looking like this, staying in your posture, keeping the shoulders steep going up to the top, and your big turn feeling is not actually this, right? Because this is not a big turn that we want. We don't want to be standing up, because when I do this, I have to make a compensation, or I'm just going to come over the top like that. So take a look at those things on video. If your big turn is actually coming back at your posture, then really focus on keeping that lead shoulder going down as you're going up to the top, and that will make it a lot easier to come from the inside. And also make sure that your big turn is not leaning toward the target, right? So if I get to where I'm at the top and I'm leaning toward the target, what am I going to want to do in the downswing? I'm going to want to come over the top. So I need to make sure that when I'm getting that big turn, I'm staying nice and angled away. See how the overall angle of my body here is still angled away, just like I was at address. So here I am at address, nice and angled away. Move back a little bit. So nice and angled away. If you drew two lines right outside my torso here, and I went up to the top of the swing, you're going to see I'm basically right inside those two lines. If I get to where I'm like this, right now I'm not inside those two lines and I'm leaning toward the target, I'm going to want to come out and over the top. My right shoulder is going to want to go like that. But if I'm like this, then my right shoulder is going to want to work down, and I can get this club working from the inside and get that club on plane. So I would check those things on camera and make the adjustments based on what you're seeing. All right, so Patrick Y says, I was coming out of my swing plane when I was playing. As a pre-swing thought, should I feel like my chest should dress down towards the ball? I mean, if it helps you to get the club on plane, but if you're coming up out of your swing plane, or if you're standing up, I think the best thing to feel like is you're staying in your posture. Because if you're standing up, what are your shoulders doing? They're leveling out, right? So just like what I was talking about there with I think it was Frank, you want to keep those shoulders kind of angled down as you're going up to the top. So that's what I'd really be thinking about, is keeping those shoulders. And if thinking about your chest, doing what you're saying is helping you do that, then yes, all feelings are relative, folks. So if you try a feeling and it helps you hit the golf ball better, then who am I to tell you that that's wrong, right? Now, you may not actually be doing what you think you're doing, but you're doing something that's getting you to hit the golf ball better. So whatever that is, then sometimes we don't want to question it. We just want to do it, right? So Keith S says, hi Q, what do you think about keeping your back towards the target on the downswing? Well, I don't think that's necessarily a good idea, because if you keep your back toward the target, how are you going to get to the golf ball? You're going to go like this, right? So we need to get everything opening up as we're coming into the golf ball. We need to get, now, just like what I was talking about with the feeling that Patrick was talking about, just because that's what you're feeling doesn't mean that's the reality of what's going on, right? Maybe you're coming down into contact and you're opening everything up, everything's getting stuck behind you, and you're kind of getting in this kind of position, and maybe feeling like your back is to the target a little bit longer. Maybe that helps you to not get the club stuck behind you and stuff like that. So again, everything's relative. If it works for you, I mean, if you're literally doing that, I think that's a bad thing, because if you keep your back to the target in the downswing, how am I going to get to the golf ball? I'm going to go like that, right? So literally, I think that's a bad thing, but I don't think that that's literally what you would do. I think it's a feeling that may be happening, or something that may help you to get into a position that you're trying to get into. I think if you're getting stuck, it might be a good feeling. What I mean by stuck is maybe you're getting this club kind of stuck behind you, right? Because the body's kind of ripping open, and your arms and your club are kind of getting stuck behind you. And then when you get right here, I have a hard time getting to the golf ball. I've got to either get my elbow out away from my body and flip, or I'm just going to swing a mile into out, maybe hit a snap. If I'm able to get to the golf ball, I might hit a snap hook or a block out to the right. And if I don't get to the golf ball, I'm probably going to end up chunking it or topping it or something like that. So if that's what's going on, I could see that being a good feeling, because you're thinking, okay, I'm keeping my back to the target, but that's not really what's going on. And now I'm getting this club working more in front of my body instead of getting stuck behind me. But it really just depends on what's going on in your swing. So everything's relative. That's not literally what you're going to be doing, I don't think. So, if that's a feeling that's helping you hit the golf ball better, then boom, stick with it, So Daxie says, thanks, Hugh. Teaching is excellent. I'm making a lot of progress. Thank you so very much. Awesome. Glad to hear that, Dak. Thanks for joining me this morning here. All right. So Vin M says, thanks for the info on spin. Pretty sure I'm flipping and hitting up. I rarely leave divots. I'll look forward on the side of the videos and contacting ball first. One more question if there's time. What do you guys think about Super Speed system? So I think the Super Speed system is good, but really what I think the main benefit to the Super Speed system is that you're swinging as hard as you can with a lot of these things. You're swinging with 100% effort. I don't know that it's really think that's the main benefit of it in the drills. The fact that you're swinging different weighted clubs, I don't think it's making that huge of a difference. Now, if you go and look at their results, what you're going to see is that people are gaining, fairly small, in my opinion, fairly small amounts of club head speed over a pretty long period of time. What we've basically found out is that in 3 weeks, you can get on average, people are getting on average about 12 miles per hour of club head speed. On average, 12 miles per hour of club head speed. So we're taking some of what makes super speed golf effective. The main thing that I think that makes super speed golf effective, other than the drills that you're doing, which are similar to some of the drills that we do in our course, is the neural adaptation. So that's where you're basically swinging with 100% effort on the swings, and that's what we're doing in the 20-minute distance fix. So the 20-minute distance fix, one, I think it's going to be more fun because you're always hitting golf balls. The super speed system, most of the time you're just swinging a stick, right? To me, in my opinion, that's not as fun as hitting golf ball. I don't know about you, but I like to hit golf balls as hard as I can. That's what I like to do. I like to, because that feeling because you're not going to hit all of them good. In fact, most of them you're not going to hit good when you're swinging with 100% effort. But that feeling when you hit one good, when you catch one, that's like the best feeling in the world, because you just feel like you hit that golf ball further than you ever had in your life. It's like if you ever watch those long drive guys, right? They're swinging 100% effort, everything they got. And you see them, whenever they catch one, they know it. That they start screaming, that feeling that they get. That's kind of how I feel like on the range. I'm not probably jumping around doing what they're doing, but that's like the feeling you get when you're out in the range, when you're giving 100% effort on these shots. So I think that the super speed system, I think that it works. I think that I think there's definitely some benefits to it for sure. But if I'm choosing, if my goal is to gain club head speed and to hit the ball further, I'm going to be doing R20. Now I'm biased, obviously, but I'm going to be doing the 20-minute distance fix. I've never done the super speed system. I've heard of people doing it, and I've seen the results that they say on their course. I know Robin, our director of instruction here at Tosby Golf. I know that he does some of the super speed training. I think that the super speed training, who is probably most effective for, are those that have already done some speed training and are trying to kind of break through a little bit more. They're trying to get that extra mile per hour or two. But for those who are kind of new to speed training, maybe haven't done a lot of speed training, haven't ever done the 20-minute distance fix, it's going to be better to work through the 20-minute distance fix, because I'm telling you, you're going to gain, our average is 12 miles per hour, basically, that you gain going through a 3-week course, right? So, and you're hitting golf balls, and it's 20 minutes, 3 days a week, right? It's 20, 30 minutes, 3 days a week, essentially, is what it comes down to. So of actual practice time. So I think we basically, when we talk about, I'm not sure if you all are familiar with what the 80-20 principle is, but basically the 80-20 principle is where you get basically 80% of your results from doing 20% of something. So there's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things that you can do to raise your club head speed, right? But there's obviously things that raise your club head speed a lot more, right? So the 20-minute distance fix is that 20% of things that are going to give you 80% of your results. Everything after that is the 80% of the things that you can do is only going to give you 20% of your results. So that's essentially what the 20-minute distance fix. That the super speed system, in my opinion, falls into that 20% of that's going to give you, or that 80% that's going to give you 20% of your results. The 20-minute distance fix, just like the Top Speed Golf system, is the 20% of the things that you can do that are going to give you 80% of your results. All right. So that's why I would be, if you haven't done any speed, if you've gone through the 20-minute distance fix and you've gone through it and you're basically at the point of diminishing returns, like you've gone through it 3, 4, 5 times and you're just not getting that club head speed to go up anymore, at that time, I would definitely consider the super speed system. That's basically where Robin is, right? So Robin's in a place where he's done a lot of speed training and he's looking to get, he's looking to get more and more and more, right? So that's where he's at. Most people, that's like the 1%, right? So most people aren't in that position. I think that you can get some good gains if you've never done speed training and done the super speed system. But I think you would get more gains just from my experience working with students and what I've seen based on their results and our results from doing the same thing. I think you'll get better results in a shorter amount of time if you do the 20-minute distance fix. All right. So, and honestly, if you don't believe that, or if that's not true, do the 20-minute distance fix. And if you don't gain a ton of distance or whatever, if you're not satisfied with it, ask for your money back. We'll give you a full refund within a year of your membership. We will give you a full refund for it. So that's how much confidence we have in it. And that's not just the 20-minute distance fix. That's the entire website. If you're not satisfied with any of it, you don't want your membership anymore, you don't want to hang out with me on these office hours, whatever it is, then ask for your money back. You'll get we'll give you a full refund. We stand by our product. All right. So Lee G says, having a lot of difficulty hitting down on the ball and getting divot after the ball. I tend to pick and clean instead of getting a divot. So there's lots of things going on there, but the main thing here is your low point, controlling that low point. So what the low point is, this club comes down, right? It's coming down, it reaches a low point, and then it works back up, right? So if you're picking the ball, you're never taking a divot. Basically, your low point is happening pretty darn close to the golf ball, or maybe even happening a little bit before the golf ball. The club may be coming down, working and bottoming out, and then working up a little bit into the golf ball and never really taking a divot, right? So what we need to do is we need to get that low point forward a little bit. Your average tour player with a 7-iron has their low point about 4.5 inches in front of the golf ball, ahead of the golf ball. So if here's my golf ball, the club's coming down, makes ball first contact, goes after the golf ball, reaches the low point about 4.5 inches in front, and then works back up, right? That's for a middle iron. As you go down through the bag, right? If you go down, you go 8-iron, 9-iron, pitching wedge, wedges. That low point is going to get a little bit further away, right? And then as you work up through the bag, you go 6-iron, 5-iron, 4-iron hybrids, 3-wood, and so on, fairway woods and so forth. That low point is going to move a little bit closer to the golf ball. For a 3-wood, I think the low point is somewhere in the neighborhood 2.5, 3 inches, somewhere in there. So just something to keep in mind if we're getting a little bit more detail than maybe we want with low point. But that's basically what's going on there. So how do we control that? What's the easiest way to control that? Or one of the easiest ways to control your low point is something called your compression line. If you're not familiar with what the compression line is, it's one of the pieces in the Top Speed Golf system. Sorry, my nose is itchy today. Basically, when I'm talking about the compression line, I'm talking about our line that goes from my lead ankle, my lead hip, and my lead shoulder at contact. I want all of those to be in a nice straight line, and I want that to be slightly angled away from the target, or it can be a little vertical or slightly. When I say slightly angled away, I'm talking a couple degrees. I'm not talking like this, right? This could be, in some people's mind, this could be considered slightly angled away. Now with a driver, I got a wide stance maybe. I'm coming out, I'm hitting up on the golf ball a lot. You see a lot of tour players that are in this kind of position where they're like 10 degrees angled away with the driver. Well, I'm trying to have my low point before the golf ball and have my club work up into the golf ball with the driver. But for an iron, I need to get that low point ahead of the golf ball, right? So what we need to do is get our compression line to be a little bit more vertical at contact. So that's why I'd be looking at in your swing video, as I'd be looking at where is my low point, basically where is my lead shoulder when I'm contacting the golf. When I'm contacting the golf ball. I'd like to see my lead shoulder a little bit ahead of the golf ball at contact. Basically, your low, it's not exact science, but your low point is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of your armpit. There's other factors involved, like how you release the club and things like that. But for the most part, it's going to be straight down from the lead shoulder. So or from my armpit is kind of right at the golf ball when I'm striking it. That's probably about where my low point is going to be, or it may even be a little bit before that, right? But I want to get my armpit a little bit ahead of the golf ball when I'm coming in, so that way I can make ball first contact, hit down and through, and take that divot. So here's what I would recommend doing to kind of get a good feeling of controlling your low point. And I actually went over this last week. It was an office hours highlight. So one thing you can do, there's a great training aid. It's called a flat ball. It's very, very cheap. You can get it on Amazon. You can find it in a lot of golf stores. Just kind of show you this. It's basically it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a flat golf ball, right? It's the same size as a golf ball. If I grab a golf ball here, it's the same size. You can see same size, but it's just flat, right? It's about a 1/4 inch thick. So you can do some variability training with this to control your low point. So what I would do is with this flat ball, I would take a wadded up piece of paper, so a really, really tiny speck of paper. I'll use this big piece of paper so it's easy to see for you guys to see. All right, so you guys can see that little piece of paper. I would use one smaller than that because when I bring the club back, I'm going to hit it. But use one smaller so that you can hit it, but basically, or so that you don't hit it on the backswing. But I'm using a bigger one so that you guys can see it on the video, or hopefully you can see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some swings where I'm going to come in and I'm going to try to get this piece of paper, this little piece of paper here, and I'm going to try to get the flat ball as well. So just to kind of do it slow, that would look something like this, right? So I got the paper and I got the flat ball. So now I'm going to put the flat ball down, and I'm going to try to flush the flat ball. I'm going to toss the piece of paper off to the side. So what I'm doing is I'm changing my ability to control. I'm trying to control my low point. So there, my low point, I tried to get where I was starting to hit the ground about right in here. My low point was actually probably more in this area. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to try and just flush this flat ball, right? So there, and when you flush it, you'll hit it solid, right? So I came in and I flushed the flat ball. And I would use this on like a piece of carpet or a mat or something like this. It doesn't work real well on grass. So now, and that got my low point probably somewhere in this area, but I was contacting the ground right where the ball was. The reason why this flat ball is effective is because it's only a 1/4 inch thick, right? A golf ball is like 1.5 inches or whatever, right? So I can hit that golf ball and be 1.5 inches above the ground still. But with this flat ball, if I'm 1.5 inches above the ground, I'm missing it, right? So I have to be pretty precise. There's a 1/4 inch area there where I have to get that to happen. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to hit the top of the flat ball. So I'm going to set up to it like it's the ball, and I'm going to come in. You can see there, it just kind of popped up. So I hit the top of the flat ball. So in order to make that happen, I kind of had to get more forward in my swing, right? I had to come in, and to move my low point forward, I had to get my compression line moving forward. So that's one another thing that I do. And then I would work through, and I'd bring the piece of paper back, and I put the ball where you normally play it in your stance, and put that piece of paper, about 3 or 4 inches in front of the flat ball. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up to the flat ball. I'm going to come in. I'm going to try and miss the flat ball. If you barely skim it, it's fine, but you don't want to hit it very much. But I'm going to come in. I'm going to try and miss the flat ball and get the piece of paper. So in order to make that happen, I'm going to have to really get my body moving forward. So just to kind of do that slow, I'll show you what that would look like. It would look like this. So you can see there, I missed the flat ball. I came in and I hit that little piece of paper, that little wadded up piece of paper out of the way. And I would just keep cycling through that. And this is what's called interleaving practice. It's going to help you to get a better awareness of where that low point is and how to control it. So if you're starting to come in and your low point's before the golf ball, you know how to get that feeling of getting that low point more forward by doing these drills. So I'd recommend do these drills, do them every night. Get that flat ball. You don't have to have a flat ball. You can do it with just 3 pieces of paper too. So if this flat ball, if I just had like a little piece of paper here, I could do this as well. All right. So instead of having the flat ball, I would come in and I would have a piece of paper here, and I would hit 2 pieces. You can't see that, but let me angle this back down so you can see. So what I would do is if I had a piece of paper here and a piece of paper here instead of the flat ball, I'd just do the same drill. I'd set up to that first piece of paper like it was the golf ball. And I'll come in and I'd try to hit both of these. And then I would come in and I would try to flush that piece of paper, right? And then I would come in and I would try to kind of hit the top of it, make my club just roll over the top of it. And then I would do another one where I put the piece of paper in front of the other piece of paper. And I would come in and try to miss that first one and hit the second piece of paper. And I just keep cycling through those. You don't have to have a flat ball, but I think it makes it a little bit easier to do the drill. But you can get those flat balls on Amazon. I think you can get them at most golf stores, sporting good stores and stuff like that. You get like 6 of them. I think it's like $10. So a cheap training aid works really, really well. That's what I'd recommend doing to get control of that low point. So Steve H says, I cannot get club parallel at the top. Will this limit the amount of lag I can obtain? So let's talk about a couple of things there. So if you can't get the club parallel, you don't have to get the club parallel to the top. Some people aren't going to be able to. It's a flexibility issue there. But I would just make sure that you're freeing yourself up enough, because you can go past parallel too. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing about parallel that's where you need to be, right? It's more about, am I creating a big shoulder turn? So if I get a big shoulder turn here, you can see there I have a pretty good shoulder turn, but I'm not at parallel, right? And if I keep going, I'm going to get more parallel. Now I would probably get more than that because of momentum, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to be able to get lag either. So first, what I would do is if you're freeing everything up and you're getting a good turn, then you're going to be in good shape with it. Okay. You're completely fine. But if you're locking things up, you're not turning your hip, you're not turning your shoulders, and that's why you're not getting to parallel, then you may want to work through the power turn course to get that working a little bit better. But this isn't going to limit the amount of lag. You can see here, I can go like this, not turn my shoulders at all, and get plenty of lag, right? I can do that, get plenty of lag, and swing through. So it's not going to limit the amount of lag that you can get. That's not going to have really anything to do with it. So Tony V says, hi Q, where should your belt buckle be pointed at contact? How far ahead of the golf ball? So basically what you're going to see with your best players, and that doesn't mean that this is something that you're going to be able to do because it requires some flexibility and things like that. But what you're going to see with most players is that as they're coming into contact, as they're coming down, that belt buckle is pointing more out toward the target and it's starting to work up, right? So it's kind of working like that. All right, so my belt buckle is kind of pointing like this. If you're not real flexible, you may be coming down and your belt buckle might be a little bit more like that at contact. That's completely fine. So it's a matter of just trying to get your body to open up as much as you can. You may not be able to get as much and get this working up like a tour player would. Dustin Johnson, he's kind of like this. Like I can't even get into that kind of position. He's coming in he's like this at contact, right? I can't even do that in a static position what he's doing. So you do what you're able to do, but what you're going to see in the best players is typically it's working out in front of the golf ball. The hips are typically going to be about 40 to 50 degrees open at contact, and the hips are going to be working, and the hips are going to be kind of working up through contact. So initially, my belt buckle kind of works down toward the golf ball, right? Initially, and then as I'm coming through contact, my belt buckle, my back is going to extend, and I'm going to go like that, right? I'm going to be pushing up a little bit. But you may not have the flexibility to be able to do that, but that's what most tour players are doing. So Mike F says, I'm having trouble with my hands at impact no matter how I grip, swing, down and through. I seem to turn my wrist clockwise at impact. Clockwise at impact. Thus opening the face. Where would the reason most likely be? At top of swing, grip, hand position, needs some help. Mike, it's hard to say. That's kind of an interesting one. I don't think I've ever seen anyone actually turn their wrists clockwise as they're coming into contact. I see a lot of counterclockwise, which is this way, where they're rolling their hands over hard to square up the face. Mike, it's really impossible. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. Let me read that again. Maybe I'm missing something. I'm having trouble with my hands at impact, no matter how I grip, swing down and through. I seem to turn my wrists clockwise at impact, thus opening the face. Where would the reason most likely be? At tops? So I would really need to see your swing to know what's going on there. But what I would try to feel like is at the top of the swing that you're doing a little bit of this, bowing the wrist, getting that club face square earlier, right? And turning this handle down even more as you're coming down into contact. The tennis racket drill from the move course may be a good one for you to work on. It could be that you're kind of coming down steep, right? Maybe you're coming down way steep like this, and then you got to get that club on plane so your hands kind of go like that. So I'm guessing that might be what's going on. It's hard to say without seeing your swing. It's really impossible for me to say, but you probably just need to work on the move on the tennis racket drill. That's what I would look at, is the tennis racket drill. So to get to the tennis racket drill, you can just search tennis and you'll find the tennis racket drill there. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a search window. Just search the word tennis. You'll see tennis racket drill 1.3 about getting the club shallow out and so on and so forth. If you're on a mobile device, in the upper right-hand corner, there should be a little icon there that's 3 horizontal lines. If you select that, that'll expand a menu. If you scroll down to the bottom of that menu, you'll find the search window there where you can search it. Or you can go to the move course by clicking the house icon and going scrolling down on the home page and finding the move course. It's 1.3 from the move is the one that you're looking for. All right. So John T says, I heard someone say to only work on one thing at a time or you will never improve. Would you agree? If so, does that mean only one thing per day? It really just depends. So I think for the vast majority of people, that is probably the thing to work on. Now, I would say at one time, you only really want to work on one thing at a time. So basically, if you're working on getting some forward shaft lean, okay, then that would be all. You shouldn't, if you're trying to fix your slice and work on forward shaft lean and fix your chunks and your thins and all that all at the same time, it can be a little bit difficult. You want to be more focused and specific on what exactly you're trying to do. And then as you're getting that piece, you try to get the other pieces to go along with it as you're going through with it. But it doesn't mean that you can't be working on your driver, getting rid of your slice with your driver and hitting your irons a little bit better and your chipping and your putting and things like that. Doesn't mean you can't work at all of those things in the same day. You're just going to you're not going to be working on your driving and your putting at the same time, right? Not at the exact same time. Right, you're going to work on your driving for a little bit on the range or whatever it might be. If you're hitting a slice, you're going to be working on getting the club to work more in out and closing the face to get that to straighten out. If you're working on your putting, maybe you're working on your lag putting or whatever it might be. It really just depends on how much time you have to practice. I just think for the average person, for your average person that, let's say, I would say your average golfer, right? Your average avid golfer is playing, a couple times a week, and they might have an hour or so to practice. Like, so they go to the range like once a week to practice. That person needs to just focus on improving whatever that one thing is that's hurting that's costing them the most strokes out on the course, right? That's typically what the average person is. But if you're like a range rat and you're at the range all the time, you probably practice more than what you actually even play, then that person can work on multiple things. They can be working on their short game. They can be working on they could be working on two different things with their irons, just not at the exact same time. So maybe they would work on controlling their face and their path, hitting draws and fades for a little bit. And then they would work on maybe getting a little bit more compression, de-lofting the face a little bit. Or maybe they would work on, ball first contact for a little bit. So you wouldn't be necessarily working on all those at the exact same time, if that makes sense. All right. So anyway, so one more question here. And I apologize if I'm going to mispronounce your name. Dananje K. So I apologize if I haven't seen that name before. That's a new one for me. So I apologize if I mispronounced it. But they ask, what sequence should I follow in your course to learn to switch weight on the front foot and make the turn? So what I'd recommend doing if you're really struggling with that, I would go straight to the topping and chunking the ball. That's going to be all about getting that proper weight shift. If that's what you want to focus on, then I would go straight to that, because that's going to basically attack the problem that you're talking about right away. So to get to that course, all you got to do is click the house icon. That's going to take you to the home page. There's a little house icon at the top of the page. That'll take you to the home page. If you scroll down the home page, you'll see a list of all the courses on the website. Go to that bonus course, the Stop Chunking and Topping course. That's going to get you to where you're loading up, and then you're getting that weight shift, that good weight shift to the lead side, and get you to start making better ball first contact. All right, so thanks everybody for joining me. We'll be back here tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, so 3 p.m. Eastern time. Hopefully see you all then, and have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.